Well, welcome, Therapy Flow community. We're not live yet. There we go. Welcome, Therapy Flow community. We're back at you with hopefully an insightful, quick session today on how to increase the volume of just intakes that you're doing. This is going to kind of be built off of the conversation. Kenny, one of the practices that we work with, posted in our community yesterday saying that in the last 6 months of working with our team, he's about doubled from about 35, 36 monthly intakes to more than 70 plus monthly intakes. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what our team was doing with him, his part, our part, and a couple succinct actions that you can do, as I know many of you would love to even get 10 new intakes, 20 new intakes, much less, close to 40 new intakes coming in monthly. So that's what we have for you today. Let's dive in.
Yeah. I said it's easy as 1, 2, 3, right? Just because it's easy doesn't mean that it's quick. And we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I think the number one thing that happened here is just more, better marketing. Ultimately, Kenny came to us and he was marketing already, right? He was running Google ads, he was doing SEO, he was doing all the normal stuff. He's an insurance practice, so a larger insurance practice. So he's paneled, he's got, lots of things working for him, lots of irons sort of in the fire. I think what is the big differentiator on marketing is one, it comes down to focus. It comes down to staying focused on a few key elements that will create success for you. Having confidence on those core elements, so that way you don't start doing the business owner disco and start moving in all kinds of different ways. And then just doing it better. I remember the story that he told us was, 2 to 5 years ago, 2 to 5 years ago, before COVID, before sort of the telehealth migration, the great telehealth migration for therapy clients. He was saying that he was getting really, really cheap Google conversions and really, really cheap Google clicks. And gone are those days. Now that there's VC funded organizations like the Helps out there and the Aromas, they are putting in just a ton of cash into the space. It doesn't mean that you can't get a piece. It just means that you have to be smart. You have to work smart. You have to work hard. You have to do the things that work. And I think that's what it comes down to with marketing. I think this is kind of a weird way to maybe look at this, but like, you can never have more clients than people you talk to. And you can never have more people you talk to than people who've seen you. And so if you work backwards, you have to be seen way more than the amount of times that you talk to people. And the amount of times you talk to people is going to be more than the amount of clients that you actually get. And so I would think of it like that.
Yeah, I think we often hear from practices, I'm already running Google ads, I'm already X, Y, and Z. The reality is you kind of have 5, maybe 6 core ways that you can get clients as a therapy practice. You have your directory sites like Psychology Today. You have paid ads like Google or Facebook. You have your website with search engine optimization. You have like networking referrals / word of mouth referrals, so kind of the word of mouth process. You have social media, and then maybe everything else that could drive that. In theory, you could do magazines or radio ads, sponsor events or whatever. But those first 5, especially those first 4, because a lot of our practices that we see aren't doing social media, like organic posting to drive a lot of traffic. You have the same segments, sort of the same ponds to fish in. So how is a practice with 100 clinicians able to fill their practice compared to a practice with 2 clinicians, sort of shopping in the same circuits? And so that's really where it's a mix of more marketing and better marketing. First step is new. Do any of those channels or do all of those channels exist? And then qualitatively, are we spending enough on ads, or are we doing enough? I think one thing that we see a lot, especially with paid ads, is I hear all the time that practices be like, I used to run Google ads, or I used to get better results, but they lagged, so I turned them off. Or I turn them on when I really need something. We typically see an ad strategy work well when you commit to it for months, if not years, over time. And there's a level of consistency that's needed. When you stop and you start and you stop and you start, you lose a lot of ground. You lose a lot of optimization. You lose a lot of bandwidth to continue to improve the process, drive the cost down of the leads, or see how your conversion process. So my one encouragement is don't be that practice that turns your ads on and off and on and off and on and on. And part of the reason that we know practices do that is because they aren't able to track or aren't tracking whether their ads are actually profitable or not.
Yeah. This kind of segues nicely into like improving your intake, that like triage, the sales process.
Yeah.
If you're doing a really good job at tracking your inquiries, and I think this is maybe a misnomer. Tracking inquiries, I don't mean like asking your patients where they found you, asking your clients where they found you when they talk to you. I mean actually having data points suggesting where they came from. Knowing that when someone filled out a form, they filled it out from this page, or they filled it, they gave you a call from this ad. That type of information is the information you need. Mostly because like patients don't know actually the intricacies of marketing as much as you, the business owner, needs to know the intricacy of marketing, and the intricacy of your system. And so those inputs are insanely valuable to know when someone came from an ad, or when someone came from your SEO, or when someone came from different outputs, because that's going to inform drastically, and radically really inform how you proceed with that system and how you improve the systems and which systems you need to focus on and improve on. Because if you try to improve everything all the time, you're going to burn out. You're going to quit. You're going to get nowhere. So improve your intake process by having great clarity and automatic, like robotic clarity on where the person came from. And then take some time to create a sales process that uh, fuels your clients. It gives them energy. It doesn't take energy away from them.
Yeah.
Kenny is really, really good about reporting and data, and he's really, really on point with his systems. And so one of the really big things that he's been working on is how he can get tech like synchronicity. How can he sort of get a really great tech stack? Thanks. I promise I haven't been drinking or anything. So how can he get a really good tech stack? How can he get a really good flow through for his tech so that his clients can feel really good and feel energized? And how can he enable his team so that they can address problems proactively, and get ahead sort of the curve of what the clients need?
Yeah. I think when you're doing that level of tracking, three possibilities come to mind. Is it's not just tracking for the sake of tracking. It's when you see what's working, it gives you the confidence to double down with time, with money, with team members. So when you see that your Google ads are working and are profitable, you're like, great, you should invest more into it. I hear all the time, I don't spend more on Google ads because I don't know if I'm getting any results from my Google ads. I think I am, but I'm not sure. Great, let's clear that up. Same with something like SEO. Any one of the marketing channels that we mentioned has the possibility to keep your practice full all on its own. Diversity of inquiry sources is helpful. So that way, if you have a big SEO dip one month, it doesn't just like obliterate your practice results. So there's some parity there. However, you can have a multi-million-dollar practice just on paid ads, or just from SEO, or just from listing sites. We've seen it all. But within that, double down on what works, and then move away from the things that aren't working. And if you don't measure it, you don't take action, it's really hard to do that.
Yeah, yeah. I think I think that's probably a perfect segue into the final segment here, which is just taking or having patience around your actions. It's rarely an overnight thing. Occasionally we'll see someone that will just turn their thing on and boom, it just works. But that
Yeah.
does not happen often. Okay. Oftentimes it takes patience, but not just patience, it's like consistent actions and patience, right? So this is you're consistently taking actions and you have patience for the entirety of the game that you were playing here. And
Yeah.
so this idea of patience doesn't mean you're just waiting, right? It doesn't mean that you just did something and it's like, oh, it takes time. That's not how it works. It's, oh, it takes time. And every week I'm doing something different. I'm making changes. I'm making adjustments. I'm making improvements based on the information that I have. And by taking and implementing patience and being committed and showing up and taking actions, that's where the magic really happens.
Yeah.
The screenshot says 6 months, but it's like that was a lot of weeks of work, right? That was a lot of showing up. That was putting in energy even when it didn't feel like it was paying out. That was putting in energy even when things weren't working, even when things got worse for a little bit. Sometimes they get worse before they get better. So like it's there's this sort of dichotomy that exists in business, and the the things that work and the things that don't work, and then you just kind of have to blend it all together and find more things that work and don't work. It's a little chaotic, but you'll find it, especially with some help.
With this process, one of the ways that I describe it is the distance between where you are right now and where you want to go, your goal, your top of the mountain, that doesn't ever actually change. There's nothing to shrink that distance. There's nothing to magically make it less far away from you than it currently is. A seven-figure business, in order to have that, everything has to be constructed in the way that it needs to be constructed to build, run, and manage a seven-figure business. There are people who get there faster. They move faster. They have better processes, coding. They get results sooner. And so it affects how fast you get to your destination, but it doesn't change ever how far you have to go. And I think that's where the persistence in your actions just shows up, is keeping one step in front of the other and not losing sight of where you're trying to go. Because we see this a lot, we call it shiny object syndrome or whatever. If we change consistently how we're trying to close the space between where we're at and where we want to go, or even our destination in general, either one, we're kind of starting over at square one. If we're starting to get up to speed with one thing, maybe we're just about to hit the cracking the code point on our paid ads and we quit. And then we start over with SEO or start over with this other thing. And I think that's where Kenny deserves a lot of credit. And most of our clients who have success, it's not because we waved a magic wand and they went from 0 to 100 in the first week of our services. It's we were able to work in tandem with them and stay consistent and dedicated across a long enough period of time to successfully close the distance. And that's the secret that a lot of people don't want to hear for success, is you can have it, but it just might take 6 months instead of the 2 months that you feel stressed about wanting to pack it into, or might take 8 months by being really committed, and instead of the 4 months that you really want it to happen with. So patience is pivotal, mixed with consistent action and moving forward. They have to be paired together.
I'll I have two quotes. One is a Bill Gates quote, which is oftentimes we overestimate what we can do in 1 year and underestimate what we can do in 10. And then a quote from you, Josh, which was like, I'll paraphrase it, but it was something like, they aren't going to care when they get the result, because once they get the result, it's like you have massive growth, is essentially this idea where it doesn't matter how long it takes when you're chipping the rock away. But once that rock chips and then the diamond opens up inside, you're going to be like, great, I did the thing. This is awesome. That's what I was looking for. And you aren't going to be like, but it took me 6 years to do it. You're going to be like, I got the thing that I was here for. And I think you'll be happy anyway that you got the thing. And so there's a lot of chaos in business and in life and other things. There's a lot of factors that go into creating the actual end result, and like bad habits that maybe you have that are holding you back, or like maybe that team member that you thought was doing great but is somehow stealing from you, or like there's always going to be those things that are like holding you back somehow. There's always going to be those little elements, little things that you do, little things around you that are impacting the like perceived speed here. And I
Yeah.
bring up all these things because the time involved here is really what it takes to kind of tease out each of those elements, right? That's like, I realize now that I have to fire this group, and you fire the group and you learn something new and you implement this new group, and all of a sudden, boom, 20% increase in revenue or something, right? Or like, wow, that increased my operational effectiveness. So now I don't have to be on top of my organization for 10 hours extra a week.
Right.
Or so there's a lot of benefits to just kind of like teasing some of these things out. And that persistence, that is what takes time.
Yeah, it's true. I think at the end of the day, we probably didn't share anything, mind blowing, truly, secret sauce on today's live. And there's a very big purpose to that. And it's to say, staying committed to the actions you probably know will grow your business right now, that you already innately know is what's going to get you to the finish line on your goals. Doesn't mean you don't need help along the way. Doesn't mean you aren't going to need to acquire some more knowledge pieces or get some expert feedback or support. I think that's one of the things that we're great at, is that iteration loop when we work with our clients, of seeing what's working, what's not working, helping them and guide them to make great changes, and starting that process and doing it again and again. So the feedback loops run a lot faster than if you're doing it on your own and there's some energy injected into it. But that's the work. It's, having the guide with you. So that way, like, oh, am I sticking to the map? Is this marker what it's supposed to look like? Yes or no, because there's been some work done before. So no, commitment to the process, more marketing, better intake process, using tools like a CRM that will massively be next steps for you, especially if you commit to it for 4, 6, 8, 12-month periods of growth.
Guys, I don't have anything else for y'all today. Best of luck. Reach out if you need some help or ask some questions. Anything you want to add there, Josh?
We'll catch you next time. Cheers.